Hello ladies and gentlemen, so in this video tutorial I would like to show you something special because I heard a lot of people asking me about this project. So in this one I would like to give you some tips and focus the whole attention on his hairstyle and beard and all the hair. So in that case I would like to paint without the wet palette because I would like to show you just the pot, because I'm going to use just straight the color from that pot and maybe a mix between 50-50 with orange and another red, stuff like that. So I would like to give you tips to paint in an easy way. So everything that you can see on this video tutorial will be about the brush. Why I said that? Because I know that some people don't like to use the airbrush, or they can't afford it, or maybe they want it. So for that reason I would like to give you some tips to paint without the brush, the airbrush, and get the best results. So then if you use the airbrush or blend with your brush to get a better smooth surface, you will get better results. But I think if you get this result as I show you with the brush, will be more than enough. So what happened with that model? So if you see this dwarf have like a mohawk or like a punk hairstyle, okay? So what is the typical mistake when you are painting something like that? So the first mistake, that speaking by myself, it's that always you think that on both sides of this mohawk crest you will paint with a shadow or a very dark color, and then the highlights or the brightest colors will be on the top of the crest. So to me this is a mistake. So both sides should have the color from this hairstyle, in that case with a red color, and then paint on the peak of every tuft, for example, every part of the hair, with something lighter. In that case I'm going to explain you something different, maybe weird at the beginning, but you will see the result. So if you think how I work when I'm painting a belt or a wrap, so I paint the lights on the bottom. So in that case I'm going to use the same tricks. So I'm going to move the light to the bottom, so closer to his head, and then in the middle upper part or top part will be the darkest colors, and then in the peak of every tuft just maybe the highest colors, or maybe not, so you will discover it. So at the beginning, remember, paint with this thick layer to paint the base coat, something very dark. So this is to explain you a different way to paint red colors, because I know a lot of people have problems or issues when they are painting red colors, because it's really tough to paint that color. So the first tip, paint with colors, red colors, that they have inside a bit of brown. So this kind of red colors will be a bit desaturated, but something like this, so you can see perfectly this is a bright color, like a normal red, but at the beginning it's a bit desaturated, just a bit. If you add a bit of brown, you will cover better than if you use the perfect blood red skin or blood red color on the hair. So I recommend you at the beginning paint with something a bit darker and just going up on every layer. And I recommend you use orange to control it, or maybe skin colors, skin tones. But for that case, because I want it to represent something more like a reddish, so I recommend you with orange. You will get better control than if you use yellow or white. What happens if you are using red plus yellow? At the end the result will be too much orange, so you can't control it well. With orange, the orange will be your ceiling, so you will get better references to know if you are working in the perfect way with the contrast and about the color than if you are working with yellow. So because your ceiling, the top of this orange, will be easier to cross it. So this is the first example and the first tip. And the other one, why I don't like to use white, because if you use white it will be easier go to pink. So can you imagine this dwarf with a pink hair, with a pink hairstyle? So at the beginning I thought to paint it like that, but then I was thinking that maybe if I paint like a rainbow colors on his mohawk crest, could be weird so to you. So for that reason I thought that with red would be interesting to you, so I painted like that. So if in some moments you don't like the red that I'm trying to offer you on that video tutorial, remember, if you want something with pure red as your ceiling, your highest color, your brightest color, it's red, paint at the beginning the base coat with something darker, because it will be easier to control it, because your ceiling is just red. Or use the airbrush or your brush to blend going down in some places to have another areas darker than I have. Okay, so because you have to play with something darker to get the contrast. In my case, I'm using the dark color to paint the dark linings to separate every tuft or every area of the hair or the beard, and then just going upper close to orange. So you will see how I work with 50-50, or I add pure orange in some tiny areas, and always on the bottom, as you can see. So the most important for these tricks is paint the bottom part, so the area where you thought that it's the shadow. So this is completely wrong in my opinion. So you have to define perfectly everything. So I explain you that if you deconstruct everything, geometrical shapes will be easier. So in that case, think that you are painting something like the belt when I explain you, or a wrap. So paint the mid colors in the middle, the lights on the bottom, and the shadows on the top. Something like that. So you can see now the edge highlights and all the colors that I'm painting, and without fears, just with capibases, with a thick layer. With one layer it's more than enough, or maybe if you need two, it's okay. But please don't try to paint with 4 or 5 layers, because this kind, it's called glazing, so I don't like it. So if you paint faster, you will paint more models and you will get, I think, better results at the beginning. And then if you want something better blended, just use the glazing with your brush or the airbrush if you have it or you want to do it. So what happened about this? So on the beard you have braids like that. So the most important when you are painting braids, it's paint them as the hair with a dark color, and just paint the 90% of everything, and just keep the base coat on the dark linings. And then with the next color, paint everything like the body. So paint everything to create the body, the volume, and then the next layers, try to move them to define them a bit better with tiny lines or thin lines like hair, and move it to the upper part to define it and represent where the light is coming, as you can see. So remember that you are watching this video tutorial with a huge zoom. So if you compare with my fingers, you will see the differences. Okay, so this is the light orange I use it, and it's just these tiny touches. So just that. So, and you can see perfectly the contrast that I used the previous color as the shadow from this color. So I don't like to use the previous color, the first one, the base coat, around the whole model. It's just keep it in a 10% or 5%, just that. The rest of that you have to remove it or repaint it with a new one, and then with the next layer again. So this is my system, this is my method to paint, and you can get definition like that. So remember that I am trying to move the light to the center of his face, so to the front view. So for that reason I'm using the back to keep this kind of red colors. If in some moments you want to get better red or deeper or more saturated, as I always told you, use the airbrush to blend over everything, spray the pure red that you wanted, just bring down a bit these highlights, and just add then something darker to reinforce the shadow. Just that, something like that, and you will get a really awesome result. So I hope you like this kind of video tutorial. It's completely different, focusing on one stuff. And this kind of stuff, I think, is really hard to understand it, because it's more like the skin is organic. So the hair, sometimes it's very common, see something very, very dark, and then close to it, something very brightest. So what happens when you have something brighter and then something darker? That if you're playing with, for example, yellow or orange and black, then will look weird. So for that reason, I told you that you have to use the next light, the next layer, as the previous shadow. So the shadow for the next color, the next light. So this is I'm using for this. And as the same way I've painted the light on the mohawk or punk hairstyle on the bottom, the lights. On the beard, I've painted on the top of everyone. So the highlights will be close to the shadow, to the next part, to the next braid or the next tuft. So this is more familiar, or this is something that I show you on more video tutorials. Then maybe the punk hairstyle or mohawk or Mohican crest, it's something different. So I would like to show you, because maybe you have dwarfs with something like that and you want to represent them. And maybe it will be helpful to you to paint more stuff and learn more. So remember that I'm trying to bring you all my knowledge on these video tutorials, always with this positivism, and to show you that paint it's easier than you think. So I don't have to say anything else about that project. Thank you very much to be on the other side watching that, and enjoy painting like that, and see you in the next video tutorial. Okay, so see you.